I feel when people think about edutainment games of the 90s, the name Humongous Entertainment gets brought up quite a lot, what with games like Putt Putt, Pajama Sam, and Backyard Baseball under their belt.
Mike Piazza.
One developer I hardly hear mentioned though is 7th Level. 7th Level was a game developer that was perhaps best known for making 3 Monty Python games, Complete Waste of Time, Quest for the Holy Grail, and The Meaning of Life. They also made games like Battle Beasts in Arcade America. Of course, they also dabbled in edutainment games like Virtual Reality and Toonland. Toonland is notable for introducing Lil Howie, who is voiced by Howie Mandel, who you may know for hosting Deal or No Deal and for being the voice of Bobby in Bobby's World. Besides Toonland, Lil Howie starred in the Great Adventure series that consists of the Great Word Adventure, Great Math Adventure, and Great Reading Adventure. Here we'll focus on the Great Word Adventure. On the box art, we see Lil Howie and his partner Stinky riding what looks to be the roller coaster built by the Eds. In the top left, the game boasts that it stars Howie Mandel, who voices, wait for it, Lil Howie. The box lists the areas the game covers, and that it is an essential language curriculum for grades 1 through 3. And before you ask, no, there isn't a Great Word Adventure 2. Perhaps they intended a sequel aimed at higher grade levels. Or perhaps they were so confident the game would be such a blockbuster that they put 1 at the end. Either way, for better or worse, only 1 exists. Booting up the game, there is a whimsical intro featuring some woodland creatures singing a catchy tune about looking for Lil Howie's funhouse and bears in their underwear. After finding it, Lil Howie comes out to greet us, and he sounds exactly like Bobby from Bobby's World if he aged a few years.
Hey there, welcome to Little Howie's Funhouse. I'm Little Howie.
Lil Howie tells us to sign to his guest book, which asks for my age. My inner child says that I am 5, so I put it as such. Lil Howie then tells me to put my name.
Now type in your real name. You know, the one they call you in school.
What did they call me in school again? Ah yes, Dumb. After I put my name, Lil Howie then asks if I wouldn't rather have a cool name. What, you mean Dumb isn't a cool name? What's wrong with being called Dumb? Anyway, a list of nicknames is brought up and uses it to address us throughout the game. We have memorable ones like Bubbles, Bigfoot, Pineapple Princess, and Barfhead. Since I am 5 years old, I picked Grand Poobah because Pooh reminds me of poop. Soon we are introduced to Stinky, whom Little Howie claims to be his best friend, even though his mischievous glance says otherwise. Stinky, voiced by Maurice LaMarche, comes off as a lazy, grouchy oaf who then turns into Mickey Mouse at the touch of a powder puff. Howie makes Stinky miss giving him 5, which makes me wonder if Howie has something to do with his grouchiness. Stinky also needs to wear a clothespin on his tail to contain his stench. After Lil Howie throws Stinky into the funhouse, he tells us that we have to figure out how to get in all by ourselves. Something tells me that Lil Howie thinks we're too dumb to use a door. If we want, we could stay outside, freeze, and click various objects to see silly things happen. After a bit of that, I become anxious to explore Howie's funhouse, so I click on the unlocked door, and we go into the library. Our spunky yellow bear friend tells us how he thought we got lost, and how it gave him time to read War and Peace. It's pretty clear Lil Howie's a show-off. We then meet Alphabot, who sucks up knowledge like a vacuum cleaner, and seems he has beef with Stinky. Lil Howie then tells us he has an idea.
Let's go on an adventure. But not just any old adventure. It's gotta be a really cool adventure.
Yes, a really cool adventure. That's right, the Great Word Adventure. Before I clicked on the shiny glowing sign, I kept thinking Lil Howie was going to say something else, but he just kept making awkward poses and faces. It's like they intended for him to say more, but dummied out the scenes and turned them into goofy idle poses instead. Finally, we're off. Here we see Alphabot can expand his inside and turn into a rocket shuttle. During this sequence, each stop is randomly chosen. Our first stop is the cheese game, but before that, we're stopped at a problem. We're told to alphabetize the 3 words. Sarah Bear, voiced by Wendy Lee, who apparently lives in the locket in the bottom left, pops out and elaborates on our objective. Sarah can also give us tips on how to complete other games. I solve this very tricky problem, get 20 points, and suddenly, we crash through the cheese game sign. Our first locale are gigantic pieces of stinky cheese that Stinky is very partial to. We see a rat pops up and holds a sign that says to Eat their cheese. What a wonderful way to welcome us. Such a courteous bunch these ratfolk are. Meanwhile, Howie says the place smells worse than Stinky, and what better way to drive that point home than to use Stinky as a literal mallet as we get set to play a game of Whack-A-Rat. Here, Alphabot projects what we need to hit, which in this case are capital letters. Rats with signs pop up, and we need to hit the correct ones. If we hit the right ones, the rats get hit, but if we don't, the rats gain superhuman reflexes, and Stinky suffers by hitting their sign. After 3 rounds of crushing Stinky's face, he falls into a hole and expresses his pain.
Sorry.
Help me, I'm falling and I can't get up!
Our next stop is the attic, which is full of a bunch of stuff, such as hippos, beat-up boxers, and not Siren Head. Lil Howie is amazed by the amount of stuff, and suggests that we all go on a trip. Wait, I'm confused. Does this word adventure not count as a trip? One with the transforming, the death coaster, and the crashing? I thought this adventure was special. Is this adventure not special enough for you? Huh, Howie? Huh? Well, this meant something to me, Howie. Stinky protests and suggests that he stay in the attic and eat and sleep. But Howie's having none of it.
Read my lips. You're going on a trip, Stinky.
Lil Howie drops a heavy bag on Stinky, and we need to pick what he should take on his trip. These essentials consist of horses, logs, tubs, and the most important thing, moons. The object here is to pick the odd item out, and then pack it back in the same order as Howie packed them. So Lil Howie packs it, and then makes us pack in a specific order, all while Stinky gets overburdened with the gigantic things we're forced to put in the bag. Soon, Stinky swaps spots with Lil Howie in the hopes of giving him a taste of his own medicine. However, most objects are extremely light, much to Stinky's dismay.
Someone has paid off someone.
Dude, I swear I have absolutely nothing to do with this. As much as I'd like to pick something heavy, Howie literally won't let me. It's almost as if he's some kind of god in this game or something. After a while, the last thing to pack in Little Howie's bag is a whole elephant that Stinky gladly fetches. But Little Howie drops the bag and steps aside, and Stinky drops the elephant that bounces back up, hits him, and Stinky then drops in the bag and is crushed once more. My 5-year-old brain is starting to think that I'm beginning to understand Stinky more and more. Next up is the stink gun that Stinky claims he likes. Awesome! And Lil Howie says he has yet another cool idea. Maybe Stinky will finally get to sit back, relax, and okay then. So he's just been stuffed in some kind of jar and is squeezed to shoot out stink. Gee, he doesn't look confused or terrified at all. In this game, we are tasked with shooting words fitting a description, like colors, homonyms, or synonyms. Sometimes a clown head will appear that Lil Howie says may give us a present if we shoot it. Other times, though, it may get upset and give us a shock that stuns us for a bit. I thought getting the present meant getting a higher score, but I noticed if I shot at the present or let it fall, the score was unaffected. So I'm not sure what it does, to be honest. After a while, Stinky runs out of shots, and in the end he seems like he enjoyed it. Yep, no Stockholm Syndrome going on here. Our final stop in this journey is the Scary Story Room. In this delightfully creepy place, a portrait of Captain Crunch's third cousin, who sounds like Father from Kids Next Door, speaks to us and says he has scary stories to tell. Hence why it is the Scary Story Room. In this room, we must scour the walls to find the keywords below in a crossword-style minigame. I must say that this room has an atmosphere that really captures the frightening aspect, from the crows to the candles and also the creepy, cacophonic, meaty music. After we find every word, we get to hear our scary story.
Jenna giggled as she looked in the mirror and tried to read the poster on her wall. Since it appeared backwards, it was tough to read. She wondered what it might be like if everything were backwards, but that seemed ridiculous and she giggled some more. Just then, everything in the mirror flashed, as bright as the sun. She blinked a few times, then looked around to make sure everything was okay. The stuff in her room was still there all right, but it all seemed weird for some reason. She wasn't sure why, until she looked up again at her poster. It was backwards. She had to look in the mirror just to read it. Somehow she'd been transported to the other side of the mirror, and everything was backwards now. Jenna started to panic, then heard her mom calling her. She opened her eyes and saw her mom leaning over her, telling her it was time to wake up. It must have been a dream. As Jenna breathed a sigh of relief, she noticed her mom's sweatshirt. It said, Mom. M-O-M. Was it really a dream?
At last, we return to the library. Oh, we gotta do this stupid. So we crash back into the library and we finish the Great Word Adventure.
We finished the great word adventure!
After Alphabot tells us our score, which is 520, we apparently did so well that we deserve a reward. Stinky asks why he never gets a reward, and Alphabot says it's because he's a skunk. Get it? Because Stinky stinks. Alphabot pulls the curtain and... Jeez, well, it's not there. Lil Howie then presses the bust and reveals an empty trophy shelf. Apparently Stinky happens to know where the trophy is. Anyway, he fetches it and brings it forth to pomp and circumstance, and we earn our reward. And then a catchy tune plays that tells us that we're really, really smart.
I am smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
There's also options to print out a certificate commemorating our accomplishment and load wallpaper. Sadly, I couldn't print out the certificate, but the wallpaper works just fine. Here it reads, for completion of the Great Word Adventure 1. This certificate is hereby presented to Dumb, known by all at the Funhouse as Grand Poobah. It lists the score as 520 and is signed by Lil Howie, Alphabot, Stinky, and Sarah Bear. And that concludes our Great Word Adventure. But there are a couple of minigames we didn't play, so if we click the not sign in the lobby, we can go into free play mode. We still have to do the alphabetizing game, but besides that, we can play whatever we want. In the scary story room, at higher levels, cards will appear on the floor. This is the compound word game where we must complete compound words while matching the pictures. There are 2x2 and 3x3 versions of this game, and completing a board results in a very fun sequence. The next minigame we'll check out is the ballroom. In the ballroom, we see an ensemble of animals partying before the bear, skunk, and bot crash. Stinky doesn't seem too impressed though, which is too bad for the skunk who'd rather loaf around on his couch inside his hovel. Lil Howie begins to acquaint the partygoers to the funhouse dance, which involves taking our elbows behind us and pretending we're an anime girl squeezing a thigh master. And before we know it...
A 1 and a 2 and a 3, hit it, boys!
It is now time to pick out rhymes. Here we can choose any of the guests. For our first volunteer, I go with the brown squirrel, who happily comes on down and sings his own verse, and then... Whoa, too close.
Now you
Are
pick the word that
you okay there, buddy? Anyway, for this game, we're given a word and we have to rhyme it with another given word. Selecting the wrong word causes the crowd to erupt in laughter to bring back past anxieties.
Maybe you want to try that again. Because it's fun. And because you're wrong.
Completing each verse correctly lets us hear the song, while Stinky looks at us as if to ask why we're dancing behind our computer screen. After 3 verses, the squirrel goes back and it's another's turn. Now, who should I pick this time? Let's go with the goose. I'm sure he's a very upstanding why don't we wrap this minigame up? The last game we have is the peanut scale. Here old pal Stinky is, well, stinky. So what better way to show him that we care than by forcing him to bathe? Here we play a game of hangman, and depending on the word's length, we only get a certain amount of guesses. If we fail to guess the correct word, Stinky goes up. If we get it right, he goes down a notch. We need 5 correct words to dunk him. And that's basically it. Gee, that was so much fun. This is a fantastic game for 6 to 9-year-olds to learn about words through cartoon violence and skunk abuse. With that, I think I could shelve this game, let it be flushed from my gray matter, and locked within my memories once more. That trophy cabinet sure looks empty, though. Nah. Why would I try to 100% an edutainment game? Such a silly idea. I mean, it's only my childhood, and my burning curiosity about what would happen if I got every trophy couldn't possibly be worth it.
Let's do that again!
That's right, folks, we're going for another ride. Several, in fact. My new goal was to fill the cabinet with trophies, which meant I needed at least 5 more. Subsequent playthroughs increased in difficulty to differentiate instruction and therefore resulted in a higher score. For example, the cheese game, instead of hitting capital or lowercase letters, we may hit words that should start with a capital letter or words that rhyme with another. Throughout my adventures, I earned the titles of a student, scholar, and university whiz, giving 5-year-old me no doubt that I would be well off in the future as long as I enrolled in college with thousands of job prospects and absolutely no downsides. After scoring 6,210 points to earn my 5th trophy and the title of professor, only 1 space is left untouched. The final stretch was upon us, or so I thought. In my next completion, I got a score of 6,860, just shy of 7,000, yet I still didn't get the 6th trophy. I thought 7,000 had to be the benchmark. On my next playthrough, I was basically perfect. I get to the stink gun, which I consider to be the easiest place to mess up. I get set to shoot, and then this happened. Okay, so I basically did perfect throughout the entire adventure, and now the game glitched out. As you can see, the green number over here, it says 9. This is supposed to last no more than 3 rounds. And now the game is basically, it's just in an endless loop, and I can't do anything, so I have no choice but to back out. Yep. Apparently the game glitched on me and got stuck in an endless loop. I was able to back out and continue the adventure, but I missed out on the points needed to break even 6,000. After my disappointment, I picked up the pieces and tried again. I reached the stink gun once more, same thing. Then I tried to play the game in free play mode. Still glitched. Did I actually break a kid's game? Was my tiny brain too much for this game to handle? After fiddling with it some more, I somehow got the stink gun game to work again. After one more playthrough, Alphabot tallied us at 7,300 points. Something didn't seem right. Did the devs actually put in a 6th trophy? After looking at the game's help file, it turns out there is a 6th trophy, with its title being The Smartest Person in the World, which is level 5 difficulty and requires 88% accuracy in the whole adventure. I also found out that the difficulty level for each game can be changed by pressing Ctrl-Z. Pressing it, I found the difficulty level set, with the attic being set to level 1 for some reason. I set each game to level 5, and I played through once more. Doing the goodest job that I could do, I received my final score of 7,350. Hold up. Only 50 more points? Something was definitely not adding up, but I couldn't figure out what. I checked the difficulty levels, and sure enough, they were still at 5. So, what's my conclusion? I honestly don't know. It could be an anti-piracy measure that prevents 100% completion since I'm running this from an ISO file, or it could just be a bug. I suppose I could experiment some more in the name of science, but for now, I will leave it here. But if there is anyone out there who has earned all 6 trophies, please let me know. Re-experiencing this game was a huge nostalgia trip for me, and this is one edutainment series that I think deserves a revival. It does run on modern Windows, but some visual glitches make places like the cheese game and the scary story room unplayable. If you can get a virtual machine running, then this is a perfect title to help your child learn about words. Therefore, I would give this game a go.